All right, everyone, and we're live. I want to welcome you and everyone in the Hedera ecosystem and community to this month's technical community call. This this session, we're going to cover some amazing topics from key builders in our community. So I'm very pleased to have Brandon Davenport, who is the director of communications at Hgraph. So I'll bring Brandon here to the stage. And Brandon, please introduce yourself. Let us know what Hgraph is all about, and looking forward to hearing more about what you guys, are doing in the ecosystem.
Right on. Ed, I mean, it's always a pleasure to be on a call with you and seeing you at conferences and stuff. It's awesome. And it's great to be on a technical community call. Yeah, as you said, I'm Brandon. A lot of folks in the community know me as it's Brandon D on X. And yeah, I'm director of communications at Hgraph, and Hgraph is really, a key trusted technical partner in the Hedera ecosystem and beyond. And what we focus on is working with organizations like Hgraph and startups and builders, no matter what size. And we focus on helping with infrastructure, with development, integration, and really helping channel a lot of these builders into the Hedera ecosystem and help get them set up. And I think that one of the most exciting things through that work this year, especially, is I think that we're going to be seeing some really exciting things coming to the network. Hgraph's really fortunate to be in a position where of course, we're going to talk about the WalletConnect stuff, but we're right at the intersection of a lot of stuff going in and out of this network. And as a lot of folks know, we own and operate mirror nodes, so we're serving a lot of the data on the network. So if you've used a dApp on the network today, or if you visited the Hedera website, you're seeing data served by Hgraph. So that's the other side of what we do, is offering API services for people. So, and we'll probably touch on this, the GraphQL API, the REST API, the JSONRPC. And we work with, again, like so many great projects and companies and organizations. So, yeah, it's a little bit about Hgraph. We've been here a while, and we've got a way to go.
Amazing. Good to hear that, Brandon. I love that, you guys are involved in so many different areas supporting the ecosystem. You also mentioned organizations that you have been working with, organizations like Hgraph. So to that end, I do want to provide a little bit of context about Hgraph, which is the entity driving a lot of the marketing and engineering initiatives for the Hedera network as well. I'm Ed Marquez here, leading developer relations for Hedera at Hgraph as well. So, I do want to do a little bit of a call out to some folks supporting this call in the backstage. So Luis and Fermin, these are guys that work in our community team, making things run very smoothly. And then let's dive right in. So in terms of topics, Brandon, I know Hgraph has been involved in the development of WalletConnect via Reown for the Hedera ecosystem. Can you tell us more about that work and maybe what it unlocks for developers and users?
Absolutely. And I'll give a little bit of context here, because a lot of folks might not know what an effort this has been. And it's not just an Hgraph effort. It truly is a community effort. And, when I say the phrase like a year and a half or 2 years ago, it feels like way back in the day in the crypto world. But way back in the day on Hedera, the problem we were trying to solve was people being able to connect any wallet they'd like to any dApp that they'd like. And so many of the wallet creators, like shout out to Pluto at Hashpack. We had Hash Connect and Kabila, Blade, Drop. There's all this effort done to like interconnect our ecosystem. And with WalletConnect now, they've rebranded to Reown. What they are is they are kind of this layer that allows multiple different networks to connect within their own ecosystems and dApps. And there's all this tooling and extra things that kind of unlock stuff for developers, like their app kit and wallet kit. So it makes development easier, and it kind of plugs Hedera into a broader picture in crypto. And it's important because really the wallet, right, is our gateway to everything in crypto. So it's such an important thing. And I think that the work that Hgraph did alongside the community over the last year or so, I mean, that work was just incredible, because not only did we bring folks together and really tackle this problem head on. It's not easy to do. And we got to a place now where I think that in general across the ecosystem, you can connect any wallet you'd like to any dApp. And I think that it makes the lives of developers a lot easier. And I think that allows the wallets to focus on new features and new exciting things. And that's a trend we're seeing in crypto as security becomes more important, as user experience becomes more important. And as Hedera grows in its profile as a crypto network, it's just really exciting to see all this kind of come together. And so where we're at now is currently we have early canary releases of version 2 of the Reown via WalletConnect integration for Hedera that we're working on. I mean, I have to give a huge shout out to Tyler, our CEO. Really, I mean, the key architect in a lot of this kind of stuff and bringing the community together has just been incredible. So huge shout out to Tyler McDonald and our team. And really what version 2 is about is saying, okay, well, main problem solved for folks. And I think that the next step was how do we make it better, right? I think that when you have, and this comes to standards and so many things in technology, sometimes it's like the only way you can build something is by getting it out there first. And so all of this feedback we've received from the community, folks telling us stories about what they like about it, what they don't like about it, how we could make it better. We've put in the work and we're doing great work now as well. Receiving support from the Hgraph Foundation. And again, just another arm of this ecosystem coming to support this initiative, which is great and incredible. And now I think that version 2, what we've done with the Reown WalletConnect stuff is streamlined it, simplified it, and with it being out there, I really think the most important thing for Hgraph is we've learned so much, not just about how people use the network, but also all of the weird intricacies of like different key types and the JSONRPC, all of these things that really are big challenges for developers. But once you figure it out together, now we kind of have a roadmap of people to kind of integrate and make it easier and simpler. And just a massive shout out to the Reown team. I mean, at HedeeraCon, I had their CEO on a panel of mine, and they're just fully invested in the Hedera ecosystem. It's just great to see their support. So that's kind of where we're at with it. And I think it's on one side it's a story about technology for sure, but because it's wallets, because it's about connecting this ecosystem, it's a story about people. It's about developers.
Absolutely. And I think you mentioned that wallets are that gateway for many users to come to the ecosystem, which I completely agree with. And it's important to provide a good experience through that wallet as we onboard many new users to crypto. One of the unique aspects of Hedera is that we have, Hedera native wallets. We also have EVM compatibility, so we're able to integrate with wallets like MetaMask. Can you speak a little bit to the process or maybe even the challenges of supporting both of those namespaces, the Hedera native side of the house, the EVM side of the house, to provide a seamless experience for dApps through WalletConnect?
I'll touch on a couple things. And I think that the first thing that pops to my mind, and something that I don't think a lot of people know about Hedera, is because it's EVM compatible, we have these different key types on the network, right? And getting a little technical here, but there's one key type called ED25519, and there's another key type called ECDSA. It's just a different way to make keys on an account. They're both super secure. And ED25519 there's little extra features that it has on the Hedera network because it's native to the Hedera network. And that key type was the original key type on Hedera. Now, when we look at the EVM and we look at how the rest of kind of the crypto ecosystem works, and Hedera being an EVM compatible network, you're set up for success and to build on that. And that basically means that an Ethereum developer can come into Hedera and kind of pick up and go and kind of get, going with things. Now, there's asterisks with that. You do have to, figure things out, and there are little catch-ups here and there. But basically, with those two different key types, that was a really big technical challenge. Not only that, understanding, okay, they both act a little differently. For example, the ED 25519 key can't really interact with the JSONRPC relay, which is required for some things for EVM applications, and the ECDSA key type can. So there's all these like different nuances. So just to kind of put a point on that is it really one of the big things was the education component for ourselves and for others, right? It was finding the answers, running the tests, and getting the feedback and drilling down on exactly like which functions do we need to pay attention to? What do we need to get from the relay? Can we get from the mirror node? It's like, it was just a lot of work to figure that out. And we didn't do it alone. But what that results in now is just a clear way of outlining it for people to just make better informed decisions for their application and having a little bit less confusion. So the key types were a really important thing, and I think that there's also a lot of really interesting things about the different the different key types that folks can check out. But then with that, kind of that next thing was what I was touching on, is like creating these pathways through this complexity. I think that with version 1 of WalletConnect, we didn't really have all of those capabilities. We were kind of still figuring things out after solving the initial problem. And now we're in a place where we can take all these complexities, and now we actually have these kind of like 2 defined pathways, as you said, where, okay, I'm an application and I'd love to build on Hedera. I'd love to integrate with Hedera. It's now a simple question of, okay, do I want to support the native Hedera namespace? Do I want to support the Ethereum namespace, or do I want to support both? Now, I think that developers have a choice on Hedera, and they can mix and match and find that pathway that works best for their application. And also, too, it doesn't need to be, a one-hit type thing. Many dApps will say, I'm from the Ethereum world. I don't want to worry about all this other Hedera stuff. I'm just going to use the Ethereum namespace. I'm going to plug in, and boom, now you're connecting with Hashpack and this, and it's in your, so it's really great that way. But now that becomes easier, then applications say, Hedera is pretty interesting. Maybe I'll try out this Hedera namespace, And so it's a trend that I'm seeing across this ecosystem is, let's just make it easy for people to have a positive experience as fast as possible. Because what we've learned about the Hedera ecosystem is, once you're here, it's kind of hard to leave, It's very sticky here. So that's been a huge plus, is taking all of this complexity and creating kind of like these clear pathways. And if you go to the repository for Reown on the Hedera org on GitHub, the README kind of covers all of these aspects and outlines these different pathways. So it just becomes an easier, I would say almost like for a developer, it's almost like choose your own adventure in a way, so makes it a little simpler. And also too, you have different choices of how you want to integrate things. And most developers will just choose to do it via Reown's app kit because it's right there. So it also becomes way more plug and play and way more extendable, right? So I think that that's also the most exciting thing. And then the last thing, just in regards to technical challenges and different things, is once you can start to find simplicity and really start to crystallize like how people actually need to use these tools, you can simplify things. So when developers go and look at the upcoming release for version 2, it's in a pull request in the GitHub repo right now, in the Hedera repo. But basically, what you can do is you can actually observe like how much simpler the repository has become and more streamlined it's become. And I think that that's so important because kind of the last challenge that wraps all of this together is because it's open source, right? Because it's a community thing. You've got a lot of different ideas. You've got a lot of different conversations. And we've learned so much about that process. So I think that going forward with version 2, just from the usability standpoint, the developer experience, and now kind of the collaborative community experience, I think that those were kind of the big challenges this time around. And we're just seeing really great results.
I think that is very well said. I do also remember the time, maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago when everything was done through a client. It was very difficult to have, a wallet and a unified wallet experience for devs and for users. But that problem has been gradually solved. And today we have a beautiful solution, like you said, from the technology perspective, but also from the ecosystem perspective, right? It's a community-driven, community-enabled thing that provides that positive experience for developers and for users. So that repo that Brandon was mentioning, we're going to make it available to you in the chat and different areas of the screen. So that way you can go ahead, check out the Hedera WalletConnect repo and get started with some of those integrations that you could do with this tool. And then I also want to highlight that we have examples and templates that show you how to work with WalletConnect directly in a dApp that you could build and take and
Mhm.
extend. Now, let's transition, Brandon, because we touched on WalletConnect, but I also know that you guys have brought support for multiple APIs. In fact, you mentioned earlier on GraphQL, the REST API, now JSONRPC that I know is in beta.
Mhm.
But with all these APIs and tools that you guys are providing, how should developers think about which one to use for their use cases?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, let me try to break this down. So the JSON RPC is a little unique and separate, but the GraphQL API and the REST API are similar in one way. I like to think of it. The analogy I use is like a restaurant menu. So these APIs are how you kind of get data from the network. You want to know what token someone holds, or you want to know what's happened at some point in time. You want to query the network. That's not done at this current time on a consensus node, right? Those are for putting stuff into the network. And what we focus on is that other half of the network, getting stuff out of the network. And that's done through our APIs. And so the restaurant menu analogy is with a REST API, you're basically working with a fixed menu, right? You're like, I want this meal, I want that meal, I want this meal. And so you receive the data that's packaged in that meal and there's no substitutions. So depending on the volume of data you're pulling, you could overfetch, you could underfetch, so you are limited in flexibility, but so many people use REST. I mean, it's ubiquitous and it's so incredibly useful. And then for a lot of use cases in blockchain and even many applications like it's a hugely popular API is the GraphQL API. And it's different because instead of like a fixed restaurant menu, it's like a la carte, right? You look at a big list of everything you could have and you just say, I want that, and that, and you can kind of get it in a chunk. And you can do other kind of creative things with it. And that again, kind of, I think there's a little bit of a theme here we're talking about of just choice for developers, right? I mean, you could use either or, but I think giving developers that choice, you start to kind of unlock other capabilities or quality of life things in your applications. Like a great example of the utilization of the GraphQL API is Kabila. They utilize the GraphQL API to make it so you don't have to refresh your wallet. Right. So it just updates because the GraphQL API supports subscriptions, which are WebSockets, real-time data. So you're just having data pushed to your application just out of the box with the GraphQL API, which is fantastic. But then also there's just the volume of data, right? So when we look at Hashpack, right, they have a huge market share in the Hedera ecosystem, and there's a huge amount of data they have to serve to their users reliably. So the GraphQL API is great for them. They were able to re-architect kind of like their NFT aspects and all sorts of different things. And for them, it's just volume, reliability, speed. And then there's all sorts of other things, that people use the GraphQL API for in the ecosystem. I mean, one recent great example is developer Maui has a new Tippy Bar platform that's again utilizing a subset of our data. So all sorts of creative things. It truly is anybody from a big organization or government to any developer. It's just a great way to access the data. And then so the JSON RPC is similar, right? It's an API. You can get data, but what it enables, and I think that the best way to articulate it for the Hedera ecosystem is if we're talking about EVM compatibility, right? And we're talking about connecting our wallets in and doing all these things, you start to say, well, what's the highway that all this has to travel on, right? Ethereum works a little differently. You can't just, ping a mirror node. So many of these pieces of information are inside of smart contracts. And all these smart contracts on our mirror node, there's a lot of work that has to be done to kind of get the stuff out of those smart contracts to figure out like what tokens are being held or what happened with this token or whatever it might be. So the JSONRPC relay is makes it so easy for developers to just get that EVM data and send it back and forth just as that API. So it's a really critical piece for that EVM equivalence goal for this network. And so because we had so many requests from our customers, and just seeing it out there in the community. And then also the work that we're doing with Reown and with the WalletConnect stuff, it's just, you just realize you just can't not have it. So we have our JSONRPC Relay in beta, and it just makes so much sense for our customers, because one of the things they like about us is it's kind of like a one-stop shop, right? They can come to us and we can help them develop their applications. They can get all the mirror node data. They got the JSON RPC. So it provides a little more of a streamlined type of thing. So those are the APIs. We've got them all, and they all have their own special abilities. They're like Pokemon, you know?
Absolutely. Very well said. I do want to provide a little bit of context, and you touched on this because
Sure.
Hedera does have the consensus node and the mirror node.
Mm.
And the reason there is we're separating those concerns of, achieving consensus and also the archival of that state for the network. Because at 10,000 transactions per second, right, if every node processing consensus is also archiving the history, then you would need a really, really big, node to be able to achieve that. And so the consensus nodes can go really fast, do the consensus very well, and then all that archive is passed on to the mirror nodes. But then, like Brandon was mentioning, the JSON RPC provides that smooth, streamlined, simplified experience for EVM developers, right?
Yeah.
Where it abstracts for you the need to communicate to either the consensus node or the mirror node. You just query it as
Yep.
you would do on Ethereum, and you get the information or the transaction submission that you're after. So that bit of context, will be helpful to understand the low level workings of the Hedera network. Now, I do want to add another success story to the REST APIs and the GraphQL APIs that you guys provide, because I've actually used the GraphQL API to build, an analytics dashboard of all the activity that happens on our testnet.
Mm-hmm.
And so your explanation is right on point, right? REST is everywhere. It's very common, very easy to use. But when you're trying to do very complex queries, that's where GraphQL absolutely shines. And one of the things that I love about the APIs that you guys provide is that playground, and more recently that AI assistant
Yeah.
that is very helpful to understand all the different parameters and things that you could do. So can you tell us about what developers can do with those tools, and maybe how they help streamline that developer experience as they build on Hedera with those tools?
Sure. And yeah, if you guys want to throw up my screen, I mean, it's better if I show you than tell you. So what we'll do here is I'll load up our playground here. So basically, quick brief is, if you go to hgraph.com, you can make a free account. Oh, maybe you have to move our cameras there, guys, too, because we're covering up my poor little AI assistant there. Or maybe I can do something on my screen. We'll figure it out. But basically, you can go to hgraph.com, sign up for a free account. You can go into our dashboard here and go to the playground. And basically, what you can do is you can start building queries, and you can start testing queries and getting results from those. And I've got some music in the background here too. I'm hearing some music. I don't know. I'm liking it. Keep the music going. And basically, what you can do, start building queries, testing them out. You can see the results on the right side. But many of our customers, and I would say probably the number one support ticket we would get, is they'd get to this point in here, and basically they would say, I don't know how to make a query. I don't even know what this is. Maybe I'm used to REST, or I'm just getting started as a developer, and I'm not really quite sure what to do. And we would get requests from customers saying, can you help me figure out how to get this query? And in the age of AI, what's really great is now we've got like a 24/7 assistant that is available to anybody anytime, and they can go and get support figuring things out. So I'll give you an example here. Let's say I just want to figure out how many people hold an NFT, right? So I've got the token ID of the NFT here. And I'm just asking how many people hold this NFT. And what our query assistant does is it helps you write your GraphQL queries, which is a time-consuming process for a lot of folks. And so I'll just ask it here. And so it has access to our full schema of the mirror node and all the information it would need to figure this stuff out. But I'll go and I'll paste it in, and you can see in the left in our playground, you've got all these different options you can use. Now that I've got a query in here, we can see all the different things that I can edit with it. And we can check that out in a minute, but I can go, all right, let me see if, I want to see what the results of this query are. So here's all of the accounts, and you saw how fast that was. Here's all of the accounts, and there's hundreds and hundreds here that hold this NFT, right? And so what used to be a task that would take a new developer, I mean, it could take you a day to start figuring this kind of stuff out. This is the kind of cool thing with AI is you can develop your own specialized tools to help people out. And it's really easy to edit. Like for here, for example, if I wanted to throw in, you know, a different token, let's say there's a different token that I would like to track. In our editor here, right, I can just go and explore all the different options. Many people that work with data will recognize a lot of these different things. And many of these are built-in mirror node fields. Some of them we offer, you know, pre-computed data. There's lots of value add data that we offer on top of the mirror node for folks that have requested it. But let's just change this token ID here. I'd love to see information about a different collection. So in a second, now I'm querying a different collection. So you can see kind of how fast, once you can kind of get the hang of it, you can start querying data on Hedera so quickly. Let's try a more complicated one here. I'm going to ask it now. I want to see a query that'll fetch the NFT ownership history for a specific serial of an NFT in a specific collection. And so it'll explain what the query does, and you can throw it in. And so now this one's going to take a little longer just because it's processing. It's doing a bunch of compute on our nodes right now. Right now our nodes are sweating away and doing the math, but pretty fast. And right away, right, here's the sales and transfer history for serial number 750 of this NFT collection. And this is kind of how these platforms work, right? You'll have a marketplace or you'll have an application that needs to get this data so they can take all of this stuff, package it up and show it to you in a way that looks really good. And maybe we'll try one more here. Let me see here. I would love to see some contract information. I want to see a query that grabs the most recent contract activity from a particular contract. I believe this is the saucer swap wrapped HBAR contract. And here it is right here, right? Just took a second. And you know, in just a couple minutes here, we're already going down a massive data rabbit hole on the network. And I can go on the side here and I could say, all right, I don't want to see just, 10 entries. I want to see, I want to see 20, and then we'll run it again. And now I've got 20. So, like you could paste this back into our assistant. It could put together some kind of spreadsheet for you or whatever. But this is basically just Hgraph leveraging AI to help customers perform a task that used to take them a long time. And we're doing that more and more. There's many things that customers need to do and users need to do on Hedera that do take time. And so, this helps people. And, I'm happy to, to answer any questions or anything like that. But that's basically the playground on Hgraph, and just an example of what you can do. And at a very high level, all it is about just understanding where all the data is. We have a full schema explorer, so you can actually visually go and almost like you're zooming through space, right? You can go and look at all the different schema, how it's all connected. And I would say to builders that ever since I started working at Hgraph, it's been really interesting because I thought a really great way to learn about how to build on Hedera was like, okay, I got to figure out how to write transactions, and I got to figure out how to make an account, and I got to figure out all these different things. Working at Hgraph and actually working with data, I'm actually learning how to build on Hedera because I'm seeing so much already on there, right? I'm seeing patterns of like, how do people write data to this network? What are people putting on this network? How does it all work together? And learning about where the data is, how it's formatted, how it's connected, what you can do with it. And then you step back into the builder and you start building. It's like it's like you have a map now, you know what I mean? And it's a really fresh way of looking at it. And so if anyone's interested in diving into that, hgraph.com, free account, free API key. We've got plans that can take care of anybody from the littlest developer to the biggest organization. And our AI assistant is in the ChatGPT store. You just open up ChatGPT, type in Hgraph, and our assistant will pop up. We thought that was important. Just one of the things that I love about what you guys are doing at Hgraph and just the general developer advocacy approach is just meeting people where they're at, right? And every time I talk to the developers, everybody's opening ChatGPT tabs. So I figured let's just put it where they're at, bring Hedera to them. And it clearly, when you connect the dots, you can kind of see where we're heading with this stuff. I don't want to give away too much right now, but building your queries for you is step one for sure.
That's amazing. And we're seeing that in the comments too. People are saying how awesome that playground is, and even more powerful with that AI assistant that can help you out. You mentioned questions. We do have some comments asking where folks can ask questions. And so please, whatever platform you're watching this on, whether it's YouTube, X, LinkedIn, leave us your comments. We'll be able to see those. And then, we'll take some time for Q&A at the very end, or if a great question comes up, we'll be happy to take that as we go along as well. So be sure to check out those tools, the Playground, the GraphQL API, and the AI Assistant to start building on Hedera with these awesome Hgraph tools. Now, Brandon, let's switch gears. We've talked about all the work that you guys are doing with WalletConnect, with different APIs, but you also have worked on dashboard and infrastructure and custom client solutions. So what are some of the ways in which developers are using, perhaps dashboards or that infrastructure in production today? I know you mentioned a few examples, but I think there's maybe some interesting things to cover around the dashboard area as well.
For sure. Yeah, maybe throw up my screen again, and I'll share a couple things. I'm a visual learner. We're doing some exciting things in serving data with Bonzo Finance. Incredible platform, borrowing and lending, going to their application. A lot of this data is served by Hgraph, so that's very exciting. And then we've got HashScan. I haven't loaded this page in a while, but HashScan. When we look at some of these different metrics and some of these different things, right? This is leveraging Hgraph data. Also, a lot of the different stuff in regards to AI standards. We're part of the Hgraph Online DAO. Which is really spearheading AI initiatives, and through hackathons and all sorts of different things, and AI standards, and there's a lot I can't talk about, but it's just incredibly exciting stuff in the AI space. Just as how agents, devices, humans will work together, transfer value. It's just so incredibly exciting, and of course those standards and CDN and those different types of things. Those are on our nodes, and we support that infrastructure. We've, of course, Cabela, of course, Hashpack. I mean, I have to give Hashpack a huge shout out. I mean, if you use Hashpack, you're using Hgraph, and they've just been such an incredible, I'd say, partner of ours. I'm chatting with them later today, and I always love chatting with Pluto about habits of grass cutting. As Canadians, we are always cutting our grass, and people are always freaked out about how often we're cutting our grass. And we've got customers like HBar Suite. We've got folks building on us like Orbit, and then we talk about some of the organizations we work with, and of course we work with the Hideera Foundation, Hgraph, the Hgraph group, and so both from an application standpoint, from what the user sees on their screen to the back end. I mean, that's really kind of what we're focused on, both from a self-serve standpoint of folks coming to sign up and use our APIs and build, or very often it'll be, we'll be right in there with them and almost in a team extension capacity. So that's some of the stuff we really, really, really enjoy. I saw a comment from Joshua pop up. Hey, Joshua. Then the other thing too is on the dashboard side you mentioned. And this gets, and I'll pull up Hideera Stats here. By the way, another shout out to Tyler at Hgraph with buying HideeraStats.com. What a great domain name. But with Hideera Stats, the important thing here is, and the best way I can put it is, at Hgraph we're like a big warehouse of raw ingredient, right? All this data, and if people just pull that data off the shelf, it's not very useful. It's maybe encoded in a weird way, or it's supposed to be related to something else. And so whether you're thinking of, food or clothing or whatever, we got to take that raw ingredient and assemble it into something that people want, right? That's useful for people. And one of the biggest demands from the ecosystem, and it's work that we're doing with you guys, Hgraph and some other folks, is Hideera Stats, which is open source methodologies for measuring statistics on the Hedera network to show the health of it. And we're doing this both in a public capacity with HideeraStats.com, where you can go and see kind of what's going on the network, how many active accounts. And it's very cool because if you look at a chart and you say, okay, active account, what do they mean by active account? You can go and just open the methodology and see the actual SQL code in the repository, how it's calculated. You can have it clearly explained how it's formulated. And if you have input or ideas, you can interact on the GitHub repository for Hideera Stats, and you can leave feedback. You can help influence it. And so because applications and these dashboards and the Hedera.com homepage and all sorts of other folks are using Hideera Stats now to kind of get on the same page, it's just turned into this really powerful flywheel of information and decision making that's been incredible. And what it's culminated in is a really exciting capability and initiative that we're doing, which is kind of almost like a Hideera Stats Plus, which is, okay, we've got network-wide dashboards. We can see what's happening on the network, but I'd love to see what's happening with my project, right? I'd love to see how much transaction fees I'm generating for the network, or I'd love to see how many active users my project has. And that's been a really exciting thing, because when you think about having a business, you need to have data. 3, it's a little different because maybe in Web 2, you sign up for Google Analytics, you're starting at 0, you're building your data from there, right? But if your business is on chain, right, you get everything from the beginning, right? So it's very exciting and empowering for businesses to be on in Web 3, because they go, oh wow, I'm looking at my dashboard and I can look back in time at my business metrics. It's incredibly exciting and refreshing, and gives you an edge. And so we're working with, of course, organizations such as yourself, and most importantly, smaller projects and startups in the ecosystem to create these products for them and say, like, here's your particular dashboard for your project to figure out where your users are, what are your business KPIs. It's all publicly available information. We just have to figure out how to assemble it and compute it and display it in a way that A, looks really nice and is easy to use, but also that they can edit themselves if they choose to do so. And so that's something we're really, really focused on right now, is empowering every company in this and every developer in this ecosystem with the information they need to figure out what to do next, because it seems like a pretty important thing now with the way things are going. It's very exciting. So that's been great. So if anyone's curious about that, they can reach out to me. We're early in it right now, but it's been really cool to work on that.
Absolutely. That's really amazing, Brandon, to see the support that you guys are providing at the infrastructure level for so many different projects in the ecosystem, but also these dashboards and what you guys are doing by empowering developers and businesses and individuals with data. Because like you said, data is one of those things that we all need. But then how do you tell a compelling story with that data? A compelling story that is going to allow you to make good business decisions or, adjustments, and more importantly, that you can also customize to meet your needs. So I think that's really outstanding work that you guys are doing.
Yeah.
I also love the
Real
comment
quick,
from Joshua.
I just wanted to quickly mention one more thing is we recently brought on Brett Williamson as our head of business development, previously at Standard Chartered and Wells Fargo, and he has a very impressive career in the finance space. And that's also another piece of it, is we've got all this data, and it's very powerful to have expertise and advice for folks, from the traditional finance side and from the enterprise side. It's a really important thing, both working with enterprise And a big focus of us is helping other people grow their businesses. So that's a big thing for us is helping bring that information to people.
Absolutely. Um, I loved Joshua's comment, "Hello Future." And so, as we think about the future and we look ahead, I know you mentioned some things in terms of direction, like for example, in the playground, maybe perhaps forming queries for users and making that experience a lot easier. But in general, what can you tell us about what's coming in the next few months? Whether it's new tools, new data sets, or AI features, what are you specifically excited about?
Whew, I'm specifically excited about, the best way to frame this would be branching out, right? I think that one of the things that folks in Hedera are so excited about and energized by is seeing um, a project from people inside this ecosystem grow into a startup, grow into a company, and kind of like bring the exports of Hedera to the broader crypto space, right? Versus exports from the crypto space coming into Hedera, right? What are the exciting things emanating from this ecosystem impacting other ecosystems in real ways? And I think that that's one of the things I'm most excited about. Hgraph right now is we're investing in a lot of those areas from that perspective. Um, capturing data from other networks, growing capabilities, and how we can do that, because in turn it allows us to branch out, but also it just allows us to provide better quality services and products inside of Hedera. A great example is there is so much need for EVM equivalence, compatibility, developer experience. So we have to bring that expertise into the ecosystem, and the only way we do that is exploring other ecosystems and taking on a lot of these different challenging problems with folks coming in and wanting to build in Hedera, but really having a small window of requirements. It's like that's really where you start to find these unlocks and opportunities to level things up. And of course, also on the AI side, I mean, I don't think there's anybody you could ask right now that you say like, what are you excited about? And it's like, of course, AI. But for us, as you can see, like we apply AI in a way that's just focused on customers, right? I mean, it's a very simple decision for us. It's like everybody's having trouble writing their first query. Let's eliminate that problem. AI is the perfect solution to that. And so then moving forward from there, we're just listening to what customers want, and customers are saying, well, what if it didn't just give me the query, right? Like, what if it gave me the answer, right? What if it made the report for me? What if it did these types of things for me? And so those are some of the questions we're exploring right now. Is what does it look like when we live in a world where you can just talk to the network, right? And I think that the important piece for that is we own and operate our own hardware, our own mirror nodes, our own hard drives. Like so we can build up from that and do some really incredible things that others might not be able to. And so we just want to fully take advantage of that opportunity as it pertains to AI, because I think that there's just so many questions out there and so many things that could be improved. And another great example is your dashboard that you're working on for the test net. How cool would it be in the future to just ask the network, hey, can you make me a dashboard that tells me this stuff? So we're getting there. And so then there's other aspects to that, like people are asking us, when's your MCP server coming? When's the Hgraph MCP server? And so soon, TM, and then the Ethereum node and all sorts of different things. So there's all sorts of exciting things happening at Hgraph. But I guess the one thing, if people want to know what we're doing next, definitely pay attention to what our customers are talking about, because that's most likely what we're going to be doing next. Is what our customers are asking for, essentially. So that's what we're doing next. And then on the data side, a couple extra things. I mean, we're working on delivering much more NFT statistics and things. One thing I'm working on right now is like things around collection volumes and stuff. And then of course, tons of new EVM type data. We're going to need to know who's holding what tokens, what's my balance of this token, or NFTs or what have you, and what are the top tokens and all these types of things. So it's all of this exploration and research, but again, just guided by requests from customers, essentially.
That's amazing. Now, Brendan, You were showing us the homepage for Hgraph a few moments ago, but I want to reiterate, where should developers go if they want to get started, right? If they want to explore these tools, APIs that they have available with Hgraph on the Hedera ecosystem.
It's just hgraph.com, and you just click the big green button that says create a free account. And then you're taken care of from there. You can sign up. You can log in using your Hedera wallet if you want, right? You can log in using GitHub or Google or your email. And then you just grab your API key and go, right? We got full documentation. We've got repositories with examples for, like React and all those different things. And, we've got query examples and all sorts of things. So you can also check out the Hgraph documentation, just docs.hgraph.com, and that has all the information you need to get started. So the only thing I'd say is just get started now, right? The best way to dive in, if you're on the sidelines here and you're thinking like, oh, I'd love to build something on Hedera, or I'd love to, this is just a great, free, easy way that you can go and just make something happen, get some data from the network. And sometimes that's a great first step, because then you feel like, hey, I can do more, so go check it out.
That's incredible. And that sounds like an amazing opportunity for developers. And I love what you're saying. Get started. That's always the way to make things happen, right? Best time to get started is always 10 years ago. The second best time is to get
Yeah.
started today on the things that
100%.
you have control over and can act upon. So speaking about opportunities for developers, before we go into Q&A for Brandon, I do want to highlight a couple of great opportunities as well from the dev perspective. This one is ongoing right now. So it's a great call to action for devs who are excited about the blockchain space, the Web3 space, and they want to dive right in and jump on Hedera and try building on this network. So this is the Hello Future Origins Hackathon. This is happening right now. It started on Monday, and you still have 3 weeks to build your team, build something incredible, and continue building after that. And so this is the first part of 3 chapters of hackathons that we're going to have. And so the total prize pool of those 3 chapters is $550,000 in prizes. So that's incredible motivation, if you're a dev team trying to bootstrap and get started with your idea. And so for this hackathon, you can come to hellofuturehackathon.dev and get more information about things like the tracks, the prices, the program outline, the calendar, and so much more. So for this particular hackathon, we have 5 tracks, right? One that's going to be on AI and agents. To Brandon's point, everybody is pretty excited about everything that's happening in AI. Also, DeFi and tokenization is another huge market trend that we're seeing, where we want to see what folks are building. We want to see impactful solutions in that area. Of course, sustainability. Hedera is a great network to build sustainability-oriented solutions, especially if you're using something like the Guardian as your workflow or policy workflow engine. And then if you have participated with us on a previous hackathon, please come back, right? Keep building that solution that you've built before. And this legacy builders track is going to be a perfect fit if you've already engaged with Hedera in a previous hackathon. And then we have a bonus track for you to help us improve that dev experience. If you find any of those little friction points that maybe were frustrating to you, then you can help us address those, and you can also get some prizes for that. So I want to invite everyone to register for that. And the second thing that I want to show today relates to this AI and agents track, because to Brandon's point, we're getting all these questions like, where is Hedera MCP? Where is Hedera's Agent Kit SDK? And so this is what I'm trying to show you right now, the Hedera Agent Kit SDK. So we're going to put this link in the screen just so that you have it available and you can start exploring and checking out this SDK. But it's going to be a great thing to explore with for that hackathon and that AI agents track. You can also see it here on NPM. So simply, you could do an NPM install in your JavaScript application, Hedera Agent Kit, and start working with the examples and the different agentic operations that you can perform with this SDK. So just a little bit of information on some of those dev opportunities that you can start taking advantage of today. Now, I want to bring us back to Q&A here with Brandon. So again, if you have any comments, any questions, please leave them in the comment section of the platform where you're watching this. and we'll be able to capture and go through some of those. So we'll just give a couple of moments to the audience to start asking some of those questions.
I just noticed we're streaming on Twitch too. Holy cow. Hello, Twitch. Jesus.
That's right. All right. So, first question, Brandon, will there be a metric or dashboard that shows specific use cases and how much TPS they generate?
That is a fantastic question. Yeah, I get asked this question a lot. So people go to HideeraStats.com and they're like, oh, this is so cool, right? I can see all the stuff happening on the network. That's great. But I want to see, you know, what is Saucer Swap doing, or what is Hashpack doing, or what is Bonzo doing, right? And um, so that kind of ties into what I was talking about is, um, you know, organizations and projects and different folks will be building these dashboards with them. And that's kind of what those are. Now, the thing is that many of these projects, publish all of many of their entities, right? Whether it's their contracts or whatever it may be. So, and because it's all publicly available information, it's just about understanding how you kind of assemble it. That's the missing piece. So the information's there, both, self-reported by a lot of these different companies and projects, and the data is there obviously. And then the next question is just like, well, how do you kind of put it together? How does that work? And so that's kind of what we're doing right now, is developing some of that tooling to do ad hoc analysis and different things like that. Because it is a lot of data. It is very complex. To give some context, if for one of our metrics, like a very simple one, like total transactions cumulatively over time. So you want to say, like, how many transactions were made up until this time or up until that time. To compute all of that data, it can take days sometimes, right? To compute tons of that data and everything like that. So it is pretty complex stuff, but that's a great question. And the answer is, the information's available. It's out there. It's self-reported by many of the projects. The next step is just, again, on Hgraph to develop the tools to make it easy for people to put the pieces together, So that's what we're working on. And we're starting out with just doing it with the projects themselves, so we can just get a better understanding of, how should we actually go about approaching this. And the one thing to keep in mind about this stuff, and my only self-criticism is that we, when we unroll some of these metrics, we do move slowly, but it is important, because you want to make sure it's accurate information. You want to make sure the community has time to push back if something's being calculated incorrectly, or if things don't kind of match up. Because we are developing the source of truth here, like with some of these metrics, there isn't maybe a whole lot to compare them against sometimes. So it's just about, we want to be really careful, and we want to be really honest about, and transparent and open source about, how these things are being done and how they're being brought together, so the community doesn't feel left behind in any way. Like, if we jump far ahead in some way and show some kind of crazy dashboard, it's too much to unpack, I think. So we want to just instead bring the community along with us. And, here I am, your question, and just answering it. And this is just part of the work, right? This is the work in action. So I really appreciate the question.
Absolutely. All right. So, we do have another question from Taiwo Daniel, and he's asking specifically about the token transfer process on Hedera. So, they created a contract to allow Hedera users to buy and sell USDC from Hashpack or EVM wallets. Brendan, I'm going to take a stab at this one.
Go for it.
But I think, Taiwo, I see some of your other questions, and it relates to the transfer process and associations. I'm going to provide a very brief answer. I'm going to point you to the Discord as well, which is a great place to get developer support for more specific questions and inquiries. But what you're running into here in terms of the process of transferring and associating tokens is something that is quite unique to Hedera with the association requirement. So one of the issues that other ecosystems have seen is that an account or a contract, they can be sent any type of garbage token or any type of spam token, whereas on Hedera we avoid that by having that requirement of token associations. So before an account or a contract can receive and transact a token, Brendan, can you still hear me?
Oh yeah, I can hear you fine. I mean, your camera froze at a perfect spot, so you're all good. I can hear you fine.
Okay, sounds good. Let's do a little bit of a camera switch up here. But good, thank you. So before that account can transact or receive the token, that account has to opt in or associate with that particular HTS token. Now, I want to distinguish that specific part. This only applies, the associations only apply to Hedera native tokens or Hedera token service tokens. That requirement does not apply for ERC tokens. So if you are familiar with the ERC standard, whether it's ERC 20, 721, or any other, there's no requirement for account association on that regard. And then you can do the association manually, or you could do that association automatically, right? In your account settings, you can update your account or even create your account to have a specific number of auto association slots or an unlimited auto association slots. Or, you can also do the association at the time that you're going to receive a token manually. So you have some flexibility to control that and protect that account that you where you don't want to receive maybe spam tokens and things like that. So that's a broad general explanation that perhaps provides some background to that question. For any additional follow-up and specific questions, please join us on Discord and be sure to tune into our Dev Q&A that we do every week. We do 2 of those just to come and receive open questions from developers. You can think of those as office hours with the developer relations team. All right, so let's see if there are any additional questions coming from the audience. Maybe one more. All right, I don't see anything else coming in. If anything else comes in the last second, we'll be sure to grab it. But if not, Brendan, I want to give you a huge thank you to the Hgraph team, and congrats on all the great work that you guys have done on multiple fronts. And also, a shout out to the community, right, for all the support and adoption and usage that they have provided. And, I want to invite everyone in the community to also tune in to this type of calls and spaces every month. We have a general community call, a technical community call, another one in Spanish for that great community, and then even partner spaces with folks like Genzio or Gemfinity. So we try to bring you these updates to keep you informed on everything that's happening in the ecosystem, and also to give a spotlight to these incredible projects like Hgraph, building very cool infrastructure and use cases on the Hedera network. So, Brendan, any last thoughts before we close?
I'll just say again, thanks to everybody, checking out Hgraph, all our customers, and just cheering us on. I think I think it's exciting to be at a company that's growing in the ecosystem and hiring and stuff, and on the data side. And so I just, I think that we want to make the ecosystem proud and go out on a grand adventure and bring everyone along with us. So I really appreciate you having me on.
Awesome, Brendan. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you, community. Hope everybody has a great day.
The need for a more interconnected world is fueling new decentralized technologies and new ways of doing business. Hedera stands at the forefront of distributed ledgers, where every interaction is not only trusted, but fast, efficient, and secure. While traditional blockchains struggle with speed and fees, Hedera's network settles transactions in under 3 seconds for a fraction of a penny. And the proof is in the numbers. Hedera is uniquely governed by a council of the world's leading institutions, ensuring transparency, trust, and decentralization. It's no wonder Hedera is the leading choice for enterprise and DeFi use cases. Everything from real-world asset tokenization to AI data integrity. Discover the only decentralized network with the governance, scalability, and security to power the new digital economy. What future will you build?